This is the program your mother warned you about. Vyzygoth's Grassy Knoll continues.
Welcome to another segment of the Grassy Knoll. We have with us today Diana Washington Valdez. She is the author of Harvest of Women. This is not one of the more pleasant shows that we do, but it has to be done. And the work that she has done is very important, and it's something that has to be exposed because, I guess not only because of who the victims are, but because of the frequency with which it happens. But we're going to talk about, I believe, a specific incident, or in and around the specific incident that took place some years ago. And Ms. Valdez, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.
All right, you've written Harvest of Women, Safari in Mexico. Why don't you, start at the beginning if you wish and tell us what got you into this and how this all turned out for you.
Okay, the book, actually titled The Killing Fields, Harvest of Women, and published in Spanish as well, in 2005, with the English book coming out this year, has to do with the murders of women and young girls in Ciudad Juarez, at the border city right across from El Paso, Texas. And these murders were documented beginning in 1993 because they were very unusual. We had not seen this sort of thing in the border, not ever since I had lived here, and that's all my life. And women were being murdered in serial fashion. Relatively young women appeared to be selected systematically. They were disappearing into downtown Ciudad Juarez in broad daylight with no one seeing anything or hearing anything. Then their bodies were discovered later, and from the autopsies, one could tell that they had been mutilated and raped, and sometimes gang raped.
Well, excuse me for misstating that title. You're absolutely right, of course, and you should well know. When did is there a time span within which these murders happened most specifically?
Yes, they seem to have been to string out over a period of over a little over 10 years, between 1993 and 2004. The kinds of murders in which women were brutally murdered in the same way, and the victims were relatively similar always, and where multiple bodies would be deposited in one single place at the same time. Although the victims themselves had been killed sometimes days, weeks, months apart.
This is not very good business, and journalists, if they get a chance, especially if they're freelance, if that's the case, kind of get to pick what they want to cover. In this situation, I don't know if you chose that topic or that topic chose you or the issue chose you. What made you feel compelled that you had to get into this?
Well, as I mentioned, I live here on the border all my life, and this was very gruesome what was happening, and the fact that the authorities in Mexico were saying that this was nothing out of the ordinary, and these crimes all seemed to go unpunished, and the way in which the women were being killed, the savagery involved, that all of those factors drew me into investigating what was going on and what was behind all this mayhem. And, out of concern and just wanting to know what was happening.
How did you go about at least starting to explore this? In other words, did anybody contact you, or did you turn around and say, this has got to be dealt with, nobody's doing it, and so why not myself?
Well, it sort of fell on me to do by default because, no one else was doing it, and other people who could do it, especially south of the border, weren't able to do it because of the threats and the intimidation and censorship. There's a lot of corruption at the root of these crimes, and why they went unpunished for as long as they did, and why they continued for as long as they did. And that was a big factor. And so the fact that just, across a simple borderline, I was a little bit safer here, not totally, but I was able to carry out more of that work that my colleagues south of the border could not. And like any investigation, you start at the beginning. And over the course of time, I interviewed lots of sources in law enforcement and activists and families of victims and others. Others sought me out, others I sought out, and That's how all the pieces begin to fall into place.
Was there a lot of cross-border activity? Was there an involvement with perps or victims in the United States as well as across the border?
There were, and there have been, U.S. Citizens who were victims, in that whole spate of crimes, not killed in the same manner, killed for other reasons and in different manners, mostly shot to death. And there were a few other isolated cases of women from countries like Brazil and El Salvador, Honduras, and other regions of Mexico as well. And there was, of course, a young woman from Holland, Hester Van Nierop, who was fell murdered in a hotel in downtown Juarez in 1998, and that death continues to this date unpunished as well, unsolved.
All right, now you just shook the cobwebs out of me for a situation. Well, it may not be related at all, but you know that there was the death of a young American high school senior, I assume. It's down in the Caribbean. When you just said Netherlands, I thought back, but of course where this took place was the Netherlands holding. And I mean, this is an aside, and you're not necessarily going to know about this, but I'm just going to throw that out since I went ahead down that road. Did you find anything in that situation that bore any kind of similarity to what you investigated, or is that more or less just a horribly random act of sadistic violence, as far as you know?
That what was random violence?
Well, we had this, like I said, it was a situation where we had a number of high school seniors who went on a graduation trip down into the Caribbean.
Yes.
And we
had... You're talking about the Aruba case?
Yeah. And I mean, that may have nothing to do with it. I'm just going to throw it out to you. If that in any way, shape, or form bore any kind of earmarks of what you had been investigating.
No, it's very difficult to compare them because, one, I don't know. We don't know a lot of details yet about that case.
Right.
Down in Aruba. I know more about the cases here. And certainly the cases here were not random acts of violence. In fact, they were intentional. They were systematic.
Yes.
And that's why. And there were through the investigation, we were able to identify several lines of investigation that point to killers. One was the 2 or more serial killers that are still loose. And as we know, serial killers kill out of compulsion. They don't need a motive, and they're still out there. Gangs, 2 violent gangs who killed women as a way to prove they were worthy to belong to a gang. Whenever a new member wanted to join, this is one of the things they have to do. We have drug dealers who run amok, doing whatever they want, including killing people, men and women. We had a group of prominent men who were involved in several of the murders who also got away with these crimes. And then you have your copycats who take advantage of these scenarios to hide their own crimes.
Excuse me. I'm sorry for that. Excuse me. Ms. Valdez, you had mentioned that a number of these victims came from Central American countries.
Mm-hmm.
Does this suggest some kind of pipeline where young women might be, or women of any age, might be enticed to come up to a certain place for a certain reason?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, the border is a pipeline. It's a pipeline for human smuggling, for drug smuggling, and for arms smuggling. And the cartels, the drug cartels, have more or less have taken over all those operations because they're all lucrative. And why make money from just one kind of business when you can make money from all 3 of them? And a lot of people come to the border seeking better opportunities, jobs. And while here, some of the victims have been enticed with job offers locally or maybe by, trying to get them across the border. Yes.
Well, this is pretty hideous. And, you talk about 2 or more serial killers perhaps being involved, 2 gangs, and drug dealers. But still, why the open season, on women? But you're saying this is more than just women, but you focus, I think, particularly on the women victims. What's going on?
One of the things that the sources have mentioned is that women were selected basically as a way of terrorizing the community, as a way of marking a gang's territory, the cartel's territory, and also serves to send messages to the authorities or among each other.
All right, now, what it seems like to me, only because, I've encountered this time and again, may not be the case here. Was there any kind of trade here that involves prostitution and then gets very, beyond tawdry?
Well, yes, there's prostitution and there's trafficking of women also. I mean, that's part of the flows of people that the crime syndicates take advantage of, especially in border communities, because you have a floating population of people. You have a way that people can literally get lost. They get to the border, nobody knows them. Before anybody knows who they are, what they're up to, they've been disappeared and killed, or forced into prostitution.
All right, let me just ask you if you could give us a particular, if it's any such thing as a general case history of a woman who might be involved in this. What would make somebody, and let's say especially, even below Mexico, down in Central America, as you've mentioned, all right, I'm sure it's economic deprivation, but, they've got to know that there's a risk, or maybe they don't. I would assume they do. They come up willing, I guess you could say, to roll the dice. What would be, the enticement, and how necessarily would they get enmeshed in this whole system?
Well, the enticement would be survival, especially economic survival. As everyone well knows, most people come to the border in search of job opportunities, and the ones that travel from faraway regions already make a very dangerous journey sometimes, and along the way, some women have already been raped and assaulted in different ways, and what motivates them is sheer desire to survive, thinking that they can beat the odds, but of course they don't. Once they become drawn into a gang or group that is been at this for a long time, it's very hard to get out of it. For example, women are forced into prostitution to pay off the debt of transporting them, or bringing them to the border, or helping them cross the border. And there have been a few cases in the United States of human trafficking that involved women from Mexico and other countries, also from Asia and from Eastern European countries, that end up here through those kinds of activities.
I believe it was NBC just ran a white paper, I guess, on the situation in Thailand, which is pretty nefarious, and also detailed why the women there were enticed to go there. In this situation, why is murder necessarily the end of the road? I mean, is there any kind of time, any kind of length that women are kept basically imprisoned, or is this something where it's turned over so rapidly, and if so, why?
Well, in some cases, it had been obvious that women were held captive for some time, maybe a couple of months at most, but then they're killed, and others have been kept maybe 2 weeks, and then they were killed. The thing is, you don't have the same set of killers. You have different sets of killers with different individual motives. But for me, the overall cause of all this, and what's fueled all the corruption and violence in Mexico and along the border, is the overall war over the coveted drug corridors, the cocaine coming in from Colombia.
Could you say then, necessarily, that perhaps the greatest degree of the casualties comes as a result, shall we say, and understand that I do not use this lightly, as collateral damage for whatever the drug trade.
Absolutely, exactly. Okay. And use that term, which I also use, because I believe, and based on all the information that I've gathered, that our intelligence agencies, ours in the U.S., have known what was going on, and for whatever reasons, stood by. and said nothing about it, certainly not to the public, and there was no intervention. And we saw exactly what was going on this whole time, and either looked the other way, or the other scenario is that there was one or more secret operations going on to infiltrate the drug cartels, and so as not to endanger those operations, these murders were allowed to continue.
I don't know if you want to go down that road, and I'll depart if you wish not to speak to it. I will tell you frankly, in the United States, two of the things that are dirty, nasty secrets, probably the most horrible that we keep in this country, is what happens to females, especially young females, and also the drug trade, which is part and parcel, I think, of almost every economy, and no less the United States. Having said that, and not knowing how you want to reply, would this not be, as you had mentioned before, hand in hand, drugs and illicit trafficking of women as part of some kind of tawdry but very big and impacting economic juggernaut?
We cannot take our eyes off of this fact, and that there's a lot of money involved here. That's what it's all about. A lot of money for a lot of different interests. Now, we're always, good to talk about and to criticize Colombia, Mexico, and all these other places for the drugs that they produce and that come to the United States. But I've yet to see one single bank in the United States be shut down for money laundering. And yet we know that money laundering goes on. Every year, the Federal Reserve and other institutions produce reports that show that there's surplus money floating around in the economy that must be the product of illicit activity and money laundering.
I don't want to take our eyes off of the human element that's involved in this, but I do want to ask you if you've ever read the book Drug Politics by David C. Jordan.
No, I haven't.
Are you aware of it?
No.
That's okay. I mean, I only mention this because I think you would be very much edified by it. What struck me about it, he is a former U.S. ambassador, I believe, to Peru. And he talked, drug politics. He did not write a sensational book. I thought he was very staid and even-keeled. And he basically told the readership that understand something. He called it the narco-statistician of global economy. He said, folks, if that's okay with you, well, just understand that happens. But understand, this happens. And I really thought that was a very sobering and very, like I said, leveled broadside about what is going on in the world today. And again, Ms. Valdez, you don't know me, but I will say this. I've been around the block being up in Jersey, in the New York suburbs and such, and I've been down here, and I watch drug drops out of the back of C-130s. I kid you not. And I just sit there and I say to myself, oh, my God, they do it in broad daylight. I mean, what? Just what? Frankly, balls. And that's only part of it. You yourself, do you find this blatant, flagrant, basically flying in the face of the American people with this kind of illicit behavior? Not only the drugs, but the worst of it is also with trafficking of human beings.
Well, you have to wonder why majority of drugs continue to come through.
Yeah.
I think if there really was a war on drugs,
right.
we would have seen that kind of effort. We would have seen the results. And I think it's all been words and a few seizures here and there and some arrests here and there. But the structures that make all these things possible, the criminal structures, remain intact. Like I mentioned to someone, we have drug lords that come and go, but the structures that facilitate the drug trade have continued and in fact have grown in importance and they've expanded. It's a global network.
Not to attempt to minimize the impact of the work that you did. I'm assuming that if you go out on the book tour, if you go out on lectures, you find the people very sympathetic. And they should be, because they understand exactly what's going on. How hard is it to bang against the glass or otherwise ceiling to get other people, other powers, to pay attention to what you've done?
Well, there are a lot of people who don't know. I mean, don't have a lot of details. Sometimes when you read a couple of wire stories or here and there, or see a special, that doesn't provide a lot of details that shed light on what's going on. And some people, frankly, don't want to know. They're in denial about anything so bad could be going on. They don't want to involve themselves. I've had people say, well, we have no right to tell other countries what to do. I said, yes, we do. We see fellow human beings being mistreated, tortured, murdered systematically. We have an obligation to speak up and do what we can as a society, as a nation, or else that is a kind of a society we're going to create for ourselves before we know it.
We've not talked about how people can take a look at what you've done, get a little sample perhaps, and order the book as well. What link would you have people go to find out more about what you've done and to order the book?
Okay. Well, the book itself is available through the usual channels, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, but because of the kind of sabotage we experienced with the book in Spanish when it came out in 2005, we took the extra step of making sure we had an online version of the book available. People can go to purchase that, or they can get more details if they'd like by just going to my website, DianaWashingtonValdez.com. DianaWashingtonValdez.com, and or HarvestOfWomen.com, and we'll provide more details. We've also got a documentary coming out, 90 minutes, called Border Echoes. There's not fiction. Hollywood has a movie coming out on this topic called Border Town with Jennifer Lopez. And it's due for release sometime soon here in the United States. But the documentary is not Hollywood fiction. It's based on all the facts as we know them to date.
All right, well, this is a good case. I mean, because usually when things hit the big screen, honesty and truth is lost. Are you saying that, in fact, Border Echoes is something that you feel, no, not Border Echoes, that's a documentary, but the movie that's coming out, which you would call a Hollywood production, is true to its mission?
Well, I'll say this much about it. My understanding from people who have seen it, and it played in commercial theaters in Europe, is that the audiences that have seen it so far do go away with a sense of outrage at the end. So it accomplishes that much. But it's not based on facts. It is a Hollywood movie.
Okay.
And people must keep those two things clear in their mind. When I see a movie, if you want to find out about the real thing, there are sources. There's books, and there's the documentary. There's the facts.
Well, this is kind of a loaded question, but I'll ask it anyway. So in other words, would you say that people's understanding of what's going on would be no less diminished if they go ahead and do see that movie?
No, because I think it's an awareness. I mean, that may be what is required to pique some people's curiosity, and there's no question about it. Hollywood, produces films that create and elevate the visibility of many important issues, like the movie Blood Diamond, The Constant Gardener. Those are movies about atrocities.
How many years of your life were involved in the researching and the writing of the book?
7. Every available, and I stress available, waking moment.
Good point. And let me ask you this. I mean, being a human being, was there any time when you almost got overwhelmed? Were there times when you did get overwhelmed, or were there times when you just had to find a little sanctuary because of the gravity of the issues you were dealing with?
Well, there were several times when I was overwhelmed, both emotionally and psychologically. I'm only human. But then, thanks to my training as a journalist, I believe that's what helped me. I never really had the luxury or the time to go off and retreat from all this. There was constantly something to do, people to talk to, information that kept flowing in. So if I rested, it might have been like 1 or 2 days, and continued.
You talk about your training as a journalist, and to whatever extent that I've been involved with being one, I'm assuming, in a sense, has, and I don't want to trivialize this, but I mean, when reporters have to cover rather gruesome murders and such, they have to put themselves, I guess, in some kind of third-person state where they're an observer, and they cannot allow themselves to get emotionally involved. Did you find that, when you say you're training as a journalist, was that something you had to do, too, to prevent yourself from slipping into a very nasty abyss?
Yes, of course, and that's what you describe is exactly what I refer to, and it becomes necessary because otherwise you get sucked into this and you can't function efficiently. I know that sounds very clinical and machine-like, but yeah, you have to become that way.
Ms. Valdez, in a sense, people do understand that when they realize that the only way they can get the accurate information is for the reporter, the author, to really divest her or himself of these emotions that, of course, any human being would emit given what they're dealing with. And you know what? It must be a lot like physicians at times, especially in the most drastic of cases where you've just got to stand back, whether it's a child or something like that, and say, listen, I've got a job to do here. I cannot be caught up in the emotional magnitude of it. It might catch up with me, later tonight. But for the time that I'm doing this, I've got to look at it through a different set of glasses.
Yes, and to some extent, you don't never totally divest yourself of emotions.
Right.
I remember struggling with all these issues at one point. I remember telling a fellow journalist, gosh, I'm trying so hard to be objective. And then he said something to me that was very freeing. He said to me, and what good does that do? And I said, you know what? You're right. Because if people knew what we know, they couldn't be objective either. And so the pursuit of truth is not necessarily of, well, I'm going to present this information and I'm going to strive for balance. And, I don't have balance. For example, I don't have drug lords commenting about what I wrote about them. And I doubt that they would respond to my efforts. And I did try to contact some heavy-duty people who were murder suspects, and they didn't respond. But I did try. But when you know something like this sort of thing that we know, I think that the passion is rechanneled to making sure you can assemble all the facts and get them out there and not worry about people criticizing you or not,
I know that what you did is about those victims, and that's why you wrote what you wrote.
Yes.
And for a moment, though, I want to focus on you because I think the listeners are very interested in another human being who has to deal with this, and it's not a pleasant task. Did you do anything during the time that you were researching this that basically kept your sanity? Not that you have to, tell me necessarily, but were there any other writings that you did to more or less counterbalance the objective journalism that you had to undertake with the story?
Well, I had to, I had my regular journalism duties. I work for a daily newspaper. I've been with the El Paso Times, El Paso, Texas, for 21 years.
Excellent.
This company, and so I had my regular duties to do. And I also write poetry and that sort of thing. As for what kept me going, really was the people I kept meeting, the sources that took risks, that risked their lives and their jobs to provide certain facts and information, and to see the passion of activists who were very much on the front lines of not just what was going on in Mexico, but in Colombia and Guatemala. My God. And encouraged by the fact that there are people who care around the world, and they care about what happens to their fellow man, and that's the only reason they're involved in researching and investigating these issues.
You said you've been a reporter with the El Paso News?
The El Paso Times. For 21 years.
All right. And this is why I want to ask you this. If you've been, obviously you've been with them for that long, and you must have a number of touchstones and colleagues. Did you draw upon them while you were doing this book?
Yes. Some of them were involved in different aspects of for example, the book project. The earlier stories that I had done for the newspaper, some of them have been involved in editing it, and then when the book came along, some of them, provided different things for the book, like proofreading, like editing, like suggestions, that sort of thing. I had a lot of help. Believe me, you can't do a project like this. One person cannot do it alone. Yes, my name's on there, but there was a whole lot of people along the way who helped in many different ways. And to all those people, I say we're grateful because of them, we have this book today.
Well, it's very humble of you to say that, and that's well appreciated. And I'm wondering, too, do you feel in any way, shape, or form that being associated with the newspaper, did it grant you, do you believe, any kind of protection in what you did?
I don't know. To this day I don't know because, we have had, like in Mexico, in 1 year alone now, we've had 11 journalists killed. It's considered the second most dangerous country to work in as a journalist after Iraq. And I don't think that I'm necessarily safer because I work in the U.S. and I'm a journalist here. For example, I haven't been able to go back to Juarez in 2 years now because of the threats and all of that, and I knew that day would come. But I have to say this too, and people can take it like they want to. I've had people approach me and have told me that they have been praying for me and for my safety. And I have told people who have told me those kinds of things more than once, please don't stop praying. And I thank them.
Well, if you have the shed blood of Jesus Christ on you, you're going to be in good shape. But again, we all, have to leave this mortal coil sooner or later.
Yes, we are mortal, right? We are mortal.
What happens afterwards is the key. But can you figure out? I mean, and you might know it well. Was there something about Juarez as opposed to Nuevo Laredo, or some other place that made this such a hot spot for this evil activity?
Yes, unfortunately, in the case of Juarez, we had several factors that combined that do not exist in those other places at this time. I'm talking specifically Tijuana and Matamoros because those are the fair comparisons. And like all those are border cities, and they have a drug trade, and they have violence. But Juarez had, in addition to that, the serial killers, the group of powerful men, and the two particular gangs. All of these things conspired against the community that was caught unaware. You hear, and we won't go down this, but I think you have a pretty fair idea. You've seen the other side. You've seen the underbelly of a lot of life that a lot of folks have not. And you know how quickly they bandy about the word conspiracy theory when someone tells them something. Yeah, okay. So, having said that, did you find some kind of resistance to what you did because nobody really wants to believe that happens? And here's where I'm going with this also. Have you ever tried, and I don't know if you've done that in the book, when you talk about you've got serial killers, you probably have hitmen for hire, you've got gangs, and you've got drug dealers, not a very nice triumvirate. Do you see, let's face it, a conspiracy, one that you know exists, and one also that the public does not want to know takes place? Yes, I think nobody likes to believe in conspiracies because people feel they'll be ridiculed, and because, if I misspeak as a Christian, because I am one, I think that there is a conspiracy. I mean, on a spiritual plane, there is definitely a conspiracy if you believe what the Bible says, and I do. Mm-hmm. And the biggest conspirator is the evil one that conspires against us day and night.
Shall we call him Satan?
Why would he not be authoring conspiracies all around the world that destroy everything that's marked by death and destruction? You will find the signature of the evil one there.
Well, I tell you what, I did not know you were going to go there, and I'm glad that you did, and we don't have to pursue it any further. But I'm glad you said what you said, only because what I see now, as a Christian myself, and I have been very, very deadened to my spirituality. But when I began, Ms. Valdez, getting into this, into what's really going on, because, in my 56 years, I heard things, I saw things, and I just, you go on with your life. You look at your history books, you read the textbooks, and they don't tell you anything except what you're supposed to know. And then, but you hear things. You hear things from veterans that come back from wars. You hear things about, and I'll tell you straight out. I mean, I heard Westies, which are Irish wise guys in Manhattan, talking about drug trades and the military helping them. And I'm like, wow, man, this isn't the American, the USA that I knew about.
Right.
But then I understand also, as I look back, I'm going, well, the Lord told us this was going to happen, and I'm not saying the end of the world is coming, not at all. But we're seeing, I think, a rising of iniquity, which is foretold. Now, on what you have as far as your belief in Jesus Christ, I mean, how did that impact you as you went into this very, big minefield?
Well, at first, I never saw this as a spiritual mission. And yet I was surprised to find out that others did. I saw it totally as a secular pursuit by a journalist who's going to write a book because there's so much that doesn't fit in a story or a series that there's just so much to tell that a book is required. And I never saw it as any kind of spiritual exercise, but I was very surprised when after the material came out, people have had a chance to read it and so forth, and because they've moved around in circles and they know things too, they've come back and told me that they saw this as something spiritual. I said, oh my God, maybe God wanted me to do this, and I did it, and I was just available, and that would be really neat. And I say that because I feel that it's not for naught.
Yes.
As a Christian, I am optimistic in my faith that when we do something, it's not for nothing. We can't see the end result, and I might not be able to see it in my lifetime. We never know. But there is a reason for things, and I was just glad to be able to be a part of whatever this is that might help in any way.
Well, I'll tell you what, you went into probably what I would consider, and let me just say it in frank terms. I mean, I'm not greasing you, Ms. Valdez, like that you did what you did. What you got involved in, and I have, as I alluded to you, I guess in emails, that I've dealt with this subject, and I'll tell you what, there's nothing more disturbing. There's nothing more disturbing, and yet it goes on, and it has to be exposed because people, I think, with every century we go on, we believe somehow, some way, that evil got more sophisticated than the barbaric manner in which it was openly pursued in ancient times. But there's no reason to believe that it hasn't. There's a veneer passed over it. And I'll tell you exactly what I think about, and I wish you to respond to it. One of the things I find so upsetting is when I look at the milk carton kids, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I look at them and I'm saying, how many of them have been taken not by, some random nut, but by a particular industry. And, and it's, all right, so I've said it. What about it?
Yes, there are indications that there are things like that going on in this country. I've talked to people and I've met people who have described situations that, yes, it's like I said earlier, it's very easy to talk about the sort of thing when it's going on in other countries. And not to believe that it can be going on here, too. But based on testimonies, it is.
Life is cheap for so many who don't have names, or they have faces but no names. And how that all happens, I don't know. And perhaps you might have come upon it. And I think you mentioned that you had, in a certain sense, it usually seems to be economic deprivation and willing to do anything for the chance that maybe, just maybe, you might have a better life. Is that what you found? I mean, you did mention this a little bit before, but do these, and if you've ever had any case histories for survivors, do they mention that they knew they were going to get into it deep, but thought they might be able to extricate themselves and come out on a better side?
Well, survivors, some of them thought that things weren't that bad or that people weren't that evil.
Really?
Yes. Especially when you're dealing with young people. I mean, young people are very susceptible. and that's why they're targeted.
If they do extricate themselves and they still have youth on their side, have you followed any case histories at all where you've seen a happy ending, shall we say, to some of the situations that these victims got themselves into?
The few here and there that are rescued, yes, a happier ending. I don't know that's a happy ending when you're going to be affected all your life by what's done to you or what you experienced. And we're talking about the drug dealers a while ago, and I just want to mention something because it was in the news recently, and that's about how one of the cartels that operates in northern Mexico, that on the border with Texas, Laredo, and that area, that region, how one of the enforcers, the enforcing arm of the Gulf Cartel, for example, has been recruiting kids as young as 13 to be contract killers. And that this one boy that they arrested at age 16 had confessed to already having been involved in 30 hits, 30 murders by age 16, and how they were taken to a training camp in northern Mexico and taught to use military weapons, to throw grenades, that sort of thing. It kind of almost reminds me of the children soldiers of Africa. I mean, it's not that far from that.
I don't think it's far from it at all, and that's another thing that folks are very unaware of.
Well, it's starting to come out now.
And by the way, before you go any further also, let's take another break to, once again, Ms. Valdez, will you please tell the folks how they can find out more about what you've done and order the book?
Sure. If they look on the Internet and search for my website, harvestofwomen.com, or by my name, DianaWashingtonValdez.com. We'll give them details about how to purchase the book. It's available as an online version, which you can download to your computer immediately, or you can buy the softback on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com.
Are you working on anything that you might want to speak to along these lines, or about something else?
Well, right now I've wrapped up. I just finished doing the update to the Spanish version of the book.
Right.
And after that's done, hopefully I may be able to move on to another topic. I don't know yet. At first I thought my job was over with this 2 years ago, but it wasn't. So I've got other projects that I would like to get to, but a lot of it really depends on this other thing, which kind of has taken on a life of its own.
Well, that's interesting you should say that. And I'm wondering if what you mean is, because you've done what you've done, you've attracted voices. And please, maybe for help or for further examination, is that the case?
Yes, yeah, that's part of it. I mean, some people want me to investigate all sorts of things now.
No, okay, but I mean, but specific to what you've done with Harvest of Women, have you gotten emails? Have you gotten any kind of, shall we say, personal accounts from those who say, don't stop, this is what's happened?
Oh yes, of course. That has gone on all along, and. For example, after I published the book in Spanish in 2005, it's just the way it worked out. It was done in Spanish first. Because of what was in there in that book, then I was able to meet with and have other sources that came forward because of the material that was there. It says, well, there's something more you should know, or because I see how you handled this material, I think you should also know this. Information was very, very sensitive.
Again, I'm going to ask you something that's a bit prying, I guess, into your own personality, but you strike me, we've never spoken before. But I'm just getting off you that you're a very empathetic person. And of course, you can get a lot of dings and hits from the slings of outrageous fortune and such. And you have to, especially as a journalist, somewhat, I guess, indemnify yourself against them. Do you find a place where you have to draw a line and detach yourself from what's going on? Because obviously, if you get emails, and I probably don't get as many as you, but I get emails, and sometimes it's extremely heart-wrenching. Would you speak to whether that situation has happened with you at all, and if there's a place where you have to go back and say, listen, I had just so much myself in reserves, emotionally.
Well, fortunately for us, if we pray and ask for strength, and if I think we will have it.
You will.
And I think that we help however we can, in which way we can. Sometimes it's referring people to an organization or to someone else who can help them better. I try to do as a minimum that. You do have to be careful not to be drawn into people's problems, because then you become enmeshed in the problem itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do have to be careful about that. And that goes with anything, not just as a journalist, but you do have to detach yourself periodically, especially when we're dealing with these kinds of things, just to stay sane and to be able to be alert as well, as to, and to keep an open mind, because maybe you started thinking one way, maybe you had a theory or a premise, and then the whole thing took you in another direction.
When you did this book, and we spoke about this a little bit, and for as much as you want to say about it, was there ever an inner circle of people that you sat down with, quiet times, after hours, whatever, and bounced things off them? Maybe one or two people, if you had that many, that you would be very fortunate, which you could bounce things off of and talk about your experiences with the information you were getting.
Yes, I was very fortunate because there were so many people involved in wanting to find out what was going on or wanting to help in some way. I had very few people. It depends on what the issue was. An inner core of maybe 3 to 4, and then a wider circle of maybe 6 or 7. And I took advantage of their interest in wanting to support, to bounce things off of them, to figure out if someplace I was going on far left field or to keep me centered. Yes, and I think that's very important. It's a healthy process.
Did you find at any point, or maybe more than one point, where their counsel was, you may not want to do that? Think about this. Did you have that where you might have gone down a side street, shall we say, and they said, well, you might be veering off a little bit?
No. More than anything, what these people helped me with was to explore certain aspects that I hadn't considered before, or to encourage me to move forward in an area. Like I said, I thought my work was done 2 years ago, until someone told me one day, suggested to me that I widen or expand my investigation.
Okay.
I said, oh my goodness, that's more work. But, I took that up, and or saying, well, there is an aspect here, and, it was all valuable counsel along the way, and often very constructive.
And you have been appreciative, and you said so. I can only imagine what that might mean to you. And it's so great to have that kind of support group also.
Yes, because I grew. I felt I grew as a result of the input and the things that I didn't know at the very beginning and could never have known if I had just made up my mind that this is the way I'm going to do it. That's all there is to it. The heck with everybody.
Sorry, you caught me with a windpipe here. Okay. When you decided that you wanted to do this, did you dare grab anybody and say, you know what, I think I want to do this? And if so, did they look at you like you had 3 heads and say, yeah, go for it, let's go?
No, it wasn't like that. It was like I started on a journey, and I didn't know where it was going to take me. And I didn't know if it was going to be over tomorrow or the next month or the next year. It certainly turned out to be a longer journey than I planned.
Yeah.
And I'd have people along the way, off and on, that would join me for some aspects of it, like we're going to go try to find this serial killer, if you can imagine that. Mm-hmm. We're going to go to his house. We're going to go find out where he lives. We're going to go to his family's homes and find out where they last saw him. Those kinds of things. Going to a bunch of different bars because that's where these people hung out in an effort to find them. If I had to do some things over again, I probably would not have done them the same way.
I think I understand that. Yeah.
Some things were just very foolhardy, but I think that we're very fortunate that nothing happened to us.
I don't mean to trivialize this, but I heard a story once upon a time about World War II, and I think it was in the Netherlands or something like that, and a very young girl who was forced to, I guess bring water or food to the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was that she showed no fear, and they never tried to abuse her, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
The thought being that she knew no fear, they picked nothing up, and it all went on. I'd like to think that little aura, and not so little aura necessarily, was around you, but you don't want to press it, though, do you?
No, you don't. You don't want to push your luck, as they say.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some things you go through and you look back and go, and that wasn't bright, and we won't do that again. But on a serious note, too, as we're running out of time, did you uncover a government connection to all this on both sides of the border?
Yes. And that's probably the most frightening part of it all. Yes, and all of this cannot be going on, now that I went full circle, and not just in Mexico, but in other places where we see the same things happening, like Colombia, like Chile, like Argentina, like Guatemala, without government complicity. It's just impossible.
And I would assume that things, as much as you've monitored them since the publication of the book, I'm assuming that you have no indication that things have gotten better?
Well, some things have changed.
Right, good.
I would hope that they've gotten better. I never had any illusion that whatever I did was going to end this. Not at all. My only goals were to find out what was going on and to let people around the world know about it, because I knew there was a cover-up. Things were being covered up. And the levels of the hierarchy of the corruption that was sustaining all this was beyond what I had imagined at first. And but there are some things that have changed, and such as the government trying to go out and making more effort to find missing girls. They have found a few because they took the trouble to go find them. And they have misidentified some bodies before. They have correctly identified them now. The high-impact murders we had seen where multiple bodies were all left in one place on purpose, we have not seen those since 2004. So I'd like to think, and I hope I'm not speaking ahead of myself, that some things have changed, although the overall has not, because the overall corrupted system is still in place, and it's going to take more than one generation, I believe, to see any improvement.
And let's face it, I mean, you can only do what you can do.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And, you're not going to get the help, I believe. I'm assuming you never got the help in the mainstream news. And I think that, well, go ahead, though. Did you or did you not?
Well, I'll put it this way. They didn't get in the way. I was surprised that they weren't out there on the front lines doing the investigation. It was one of the things that did surprise me a lot, that they weren't out there, tearing this whole thing apart.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, like I said, so by default, it fell to some of us to do this. But at least they didn't get in the way, so that's very important, too.
As you go on other projects, will you always leave the door open for this, for perhaps further additions or addendums to what you've done?
Yes, the way you figure out whether something is over in terms of a story or book and investigation is this. Is there any more information that would advance our knowledge of this issue or understanding of this issue? If there is, then yes. Like, I don't know if you read the book Ultimate Evil by Maury Terry.
No.
There was 15 years apart between his first edition and his update a couple of years ago, where he describes a network, a conspiracy of murders by people in high places. He was a journalist, and he connected the Son of Sam murders with the Charles Manson orchestrated murders in California, the Son of Sam murders in New York with the ones in California, and it was an extraordinary investigation.
That gentleman's name is Maury?
Yes, Terry Maury.
Terry Maury.
M-A-U-R-Y. And in fact, I mentioned that book in my book because after I read his book, when it first came out, and what was happening in Mexico, I said, my God, it's so much the same. Much is the same.
Well, I would like probably to reach him. I don't do this for a salacious value. I do it, like I said, because I think you folks have done, an untold yeoman's job with this. It is not, like I said, a work of, there's no happiness derived after it's done. There's perhaps a feeling of fulfillment, but most will not go down that road, and you certainly have. And I'm going to throw something out to you. It's going to be a real curveball.
Okay.
But I know you can field it, and I feel confident saying this to you. There is a woman up in around Washington D.C., a very, very a tigress, if you will. Are you familiar with a woman by the name of Joan Vion?
No.
All right. Well, she's a fighter, much as yourself. And I asked her once. I'm going to ask you, and I'll tell you what she answered to me. I said, why is it? And I mean, again, I hate to say this, but it's the truth, and I think you'll admit it, that women seem to be so much more aggressive and successful in this kind of investigations. If you feel that's the truth, and if you do you posit any reason why that might be the case?
I don't know. Probably, and I'm sure this will sound sexist to some people, maybe because we are the nurturers of the human race, and because some women are mothers or their daughters, we have a connection, a closer connection, a sense one, with fellow human beings. We're also concerned about the next generation, about the children, the kind of world they're going to grow up in. And I think that at our core, that is the motivator. That is there as an undercurrent, whether we speak it or not. It's part of the guiding force. It's in women, and that really, I think, is the only difference.
Well, I'll let you bail out here. You spoke well, and I think you spoke accurately. It is sexist, but that's the way it goes. And I will tell you what Joan said to me. She said we do it because man has a fatal flaw, and I'll leave it at that. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but I'm glad that you're out there, Ms. Valdez, and that the Joan Vions are out there. And long may you run. I appreciate a very candid interview with you. This has been extremely uplifting. And I would hope we would speak again. If we don't, this will never, ever fade away.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your interest in this subject and this topic and in the people who were affected by everything that went on. And what's encouraging to me is people like you and around the world.
Well, you keep it up, and I tell you, you know where you can find me, and the door is always open. Thanks so very much for spending the time with me. It was a little bit hard to get around to, but we did it, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Okay. God bless you.
Well, thank you very much.
And long may you run. Bye-bye.
Bye.